Hello everybody, welcome back to Coast Sports. Today we are continuing to talk all things Olympics, and today I want to start by talking about GOAT talk, right? Who is the GOATs? How are GOATs created? How are the greatest of all time created, and how do they become legends in their sports? Well, we're seeing a lot of that right now at the Olympics. So a couple things. First, we look at Simone Biles. Simone Biles, the gymnast who has had her share of struggles. She has not always been the perfect gymnast, right? She went through 2021, the twisties, obviously terrible. Terrible for her. Not that she was terrible. I think she was still an Olympic level gymnast, but the twisties were terrible for her. She had to drop out of competition. She comes back at age 27, which we talked about last night, an age that we never see gymnasts doing this. 27 is old for a gymnast, and wins the gold not only for the team, but for her own individual all-around competition. That is elevating her to GOAT status. For at least for a U.S. gymnast, we've never seen someone this good. We might never see it again. Although we probably will, because we're the USA. We have all the best athletes. But Simone Biles, I think in this Olympics, has elevated herself to become a GOAT, and we have seen a lot of GOATs doing really well at these Olympics. LeBron James and Kevin Durant from basketball. LeBron, I think he's the GOAT of the NBA. Kevin Durant might be the GOAT of international basketball. He is so good in international basketball games. It's like he turns on to another level. And I'll say this, international games are very different from NBA games because they're a lot more rough, they're a lot more rowdy, and guys actually have to play defense. You can't walk away just by scoring a bunch in international basketball. That's why even when we play bad countries like South Sudan, they keep it close because there's actually guys, the other teams are trying to play defense. They're scrappy, they're tough. It's a lot closer to 1980s basketball than it is to 2020 NBA basketball, which I kind of like about it. I actually dig these international games a lot more than I like to watch the NBA games. I'm a big college basketball guy. I'm not as much of an NBA guy. I love watching international basketball. It's really fun. And seeing LeBron James, Kevin Durant, and company dominate for the U.S. has been really, really fun. And they are special. They are special. We're watching multiple GOATs, potentially, at work on the basketball court. And then you go over to the pool and you're like Leon Marchand and Katie Ledecky. I mean, Ledecky for the women's has been absolutely phenomenal these Olympic Games. She is herself doing GOAT-like things. She's doing GOAT-like things. She's winning golds, silvers, and bronzes. She's up to 13 total medals now. She's up to 8 total gold medals now. She needs one more gold medal, and she will be tied for the most gold medals for any woman in all of Olympic history. This is her 4th Olympic. She started in 2012. It's incredible to me how swimmers can keep their bodies at such a condition for so long that you can go for 12 years. For 12 years, she's been one of the best swimmers in the world. That's incredible to me. And athletes in general, it's incredible to me. But like in America, we look at football and it's like most guys in football, unless you're a quarterback or a very, very gifted player, you have about an 8-year peak, an 8-year prime, right? Or it's like even in baseball and basketball, primes can last longer. They usually don't. And then you go watch these Olympic athletes, and it's like, yeah, they won gold in 2012, and now they did it again in 2024. Like a 12-year peak. Some of these guys with a 16-year peak, it's incredible. I'm always in awe. I'm always amazed by it. And then on the other side, on the men's side, Leon Marchand of France is also doing GOAT things. He's breaking records left and right. He broke Michael Phelps' last record. His last standing record has been broken. And I was wondering, how do you compare the two? We've got Phelps over here who has 23 gold medals, clearly one of the best Olympians of all time, versus Marchand, who doesn't have nearly as many medals. He is 4 for 4 these Olympics, but Marchand has all the new records. So I'm like, what's the comparison here? how do we compare Phelps obviously was dominant, but Marshawn is just a better swimmer. So is Phelps the GOAT of swimming, or is Marshawn the GOAT of swimming? I'm still coming to terms with this. I'm still wrestling with this because, like, on the part of me is like, Phelps is the GOAT because he was so much better than everybody else that he swam against. And then the other part of me is like, no, Marshawn's the GOAT because he is the fastest guy to ever do it right now. But the problem with that is Marshawn broke Phelps' records. Eventually, someone's going to come around and break Marshawn's records. And then eventually, someone's going to come around and break his records. So does that mean that the GOAT of swimming is constantly changing hands? It's not like baseball. In baseball, it's like Babe Ruth is the GOAT of baseball, or Hank Aaron is the GOAT of baseball. But in order for some new player to become the GOAT, they're going to have an 18-year career that is as good as those guys. Swimming's not the same as that, where it's like, yeah, well, whoever wins the most races is the... No, it's because in swimming, there's a time. There's a record time, and once you beat that time, you become the best, right? Right? I mean, wouldn't that make sense? Like, the best to ever do it, right? And when there's a quantifiable time, that would be more like saying, well, who's the fastest pitcher of all time? Well, whoever threw the hardest fastball. That's constantly changing too. I don't know how I feel about it. It's confusing to me. I'm still working my way through it, but my take right now is that Leon Marchand is the new GOAT of swimming because he's the fastest and he's the best. And Phelps is the American Olympic GOAT of swimming in the sense that at an Olympic level, Phelps was insanely good, but he's no longer the fastest to ever do it. He's no longer the best to ever do it, right? I don't know. Logically in my head, it's like, well, if he's not the fastest guy to ever do it, then how can he be the best? Just because he was better than everybody else. But imagine if Marchand was born 10 years earlier. He would have had a chance to actually race against Phelps. Would he have won that race? Like, if Marchand was peaking at the same time as Phelps, if they were both peaking at the same time, which obviously we're never going to know, would Marchand have won? Well, he has the faster time now, but then you can also say, well, there's better training now. There's better coaching now. There's better health now. There's better information on health. There's better techniques now. That's all true. So it makes it really difficult to compare Marchand to Michael Phelps, because part of me is like, maybe Marchand wouldn't have won. I mean, Phelps beat everybody else when he was going, but then the other part is like, but Marchand is clearly faster. So if those two were on the same exact training, the same exact regimen, I mean, I don't know who would win. But the record time is held by Marchand, so why shouldn't he be the GOAT? I don't know. Let's talk other GOATs for a second, because they're not the only ones. We talked LeBron, we talked swimming, we talked Simone Biles. Let's actually move away from the Olympics and talk some NFL football. Tyreek Hill has been named the best player in the NFL according to the player vote. Now, this is, to be fair, this is just for last season. This is based off of last season's performance. So take it all with a grain of salt. But Tyreek Hill at number 1 doesn't sit right with me. Lamar Jackson at number 2 doesn't sit right with me. Christian McCaffrey at number 3 doesn't sit right with me. How is Patrick Mahomes not number 1? Like, I get it. We don't want the same guy to be number 1 every year. But Mahomes is the best player of all time. He's on pace to be the best player of all time. He's on pace to eventually surpass Tom Brady as the GOAT of the NFL. He is right now the best quarterback in the league. Yeah, he didn't win the MVP, but he beat Lamar. I mean, part of me thinks, did they vote for this before the Super Bowl? The players vote for this, right? How did they not vote Mahomes higher than Lamar? Did they watch the AFC Championship game? Did they watch the Super Bowl? Or did they vote for this before then? I don't know. I legitimately think they may have voted for this before then, because if they didn't, then that's kind of an atrocity to have Mahomes ranked at number 4. And the fact that, so he was ranked 3 after winning the Super Bowl, then he wins another Super Bowl and he goes down a spot? I mean, who are we kidding? I think they're just, I think they're honestly just, it's a running bit. Like, we're never going to put Mahomes at 1. Tyreek Hill left Mahomes, and Mahomes got better without Tyreek Hill. And you're saying Tyreek Hill's a better player than Mahomes? No, that's not how it works. There's no world where Tyreek Hill is a more valuable football player than Patrick Mahomes, and there's no world where he's a better football player. Of course they do different things. Of course Tyreek Hill is running and catching passes and running routes, and Mahomes is the guy throwing it and calling the plays and running through the offense. But quarterbacks, generally speaking, a quarterback makes a receiver, not the other way around. And I think it's about 60-40 weighted to the quarterback. A good quarterback elevates his receivers. A good receiver does not elevate his quarterbacks. Even Tyreek Hill could not elevate Tua to becoming a great quarterback. Even Tyreek Hill. I mean, Tyreek Hill, the guy who they're voting the best player in the league, his team got destroyed by the Chiefs in the playoffs. By Mahomes in the playoffs. Tyreek Hill could not carry the Dolphins to victory. Patrick Mahomes can. Wide receivers cannot carry an offense, and they cannot elevate an offense beyond what the quarterback is capable of. With or without Tyreek Hill, Tua isn't going to be a Super Bowl winning quarterback. He's not that guy. And with or without Tyreek Hill, Mahomes is going to be a Super Bowl quarterback. That's how this thing works. Quarterbacks elevate receivers. Receivers can be great. Receivers can be amazing. But to say that Tyreek Hill, the best receiver in the league, is better than Mahomes, the best quarterback in the league, is absurd. I think the players got it wrong. Mahomes is the modern GOAT, eventually might be the all-time GOAT. We'll see how it plays out with him and Brady. We'll see. He's on pace to do it right now, but we'll see. How do you drop him a spot after winning Super Bowl MVP? 3 Super Bowl MVPs in 5 years. How is he not number 1? Other than that, the list looks fairly good. Myles Garrett at 5, highest ranked defender, I like. Chris Jones at 6, I like that as well. Trent Williams at 7, highest rated offensive tackle, I love it. He deserves it. TJ Watt. Travis Kelce at 9. This feels high for him because Kelce obviously had the worst season of his career last year. He didn't even catch 1,000 yards. But then he had a great postseason. So again, are we talking postseason or are we talking in-season? Right? Because if you're talking in-season, I can see maybe putting Mahomes at 4. But if we're talking in-season, Travis Kelce has no business being at 9. So it's like, you can't say, well, they weren't factoring in the postseason, but that's why they voted. I mean, if Kelce's only would be number 9 because of his postseason. He had a great postseason, I'll be honest. He had a great postseason. His regular season was not top 10 worthy. He wasn't even the best tight end last year in the regular season. So I'm confused how they vote for this. Max Crosby at 10. Underrated player. Finds his way in the top 10. Looking at 11 through 20, we've got some more interesting names. Fred Warner at 11. Josh Allen falling from 4 to 12. Still the 3rd highest ranked quarterback. I like that. I think he is the 3rd best quarterback in the league. Potentially even the 2nd. I think it's an open question still between Josh Allen and Lamar. I know Lamar has the 2 MVP trophies, but I think Josh Allen at his peak might be better. The problem is Lamar is just more consistent. CeeDee Lamb at 13 seems high for him. George Kittle at 14 seems very high for him. And I guess He's up by 5 spots. Jalen Hurts at 15, just edging out Dak. How is Dak 16? Really? I don't know. To me, that feels way too high for Dak. They have him ranked as the 5th best quarterback in the league. And I guess we're talking about just last season. Even if you're talking just last season, CJ Stroud should be ahead of Dak. If you're talking more than just last season, I mean, Joe Burrow is clearly better, but he missed time last year. I don't know. Dak at 16 is wild. Micah Parsons at 17, I feel like that's a little bit underrated for him. Jefferson at 18, despite only playing 10 games. I like it. And then there's CJ Stroud at 20. I would have honestly put CJ Stroud ahead of Dak. I think CJ was better, but CJ still, he's being honored by the players. The players have voted him as the 6th best quarterback. That's fair. We're not going to go over the full list. The full list is really long. I don't have time for it. But my take on the top 20 is generally good, other than I think Dak is a little bit too high. I think Mahomes is too low, and I think Kelsey is a little bit overrated as well. So that's my take on the NFL Top 100. Talking a little bit of baseball, some big games continuing to happen. Big game continuing to happen in the MLB. Cleveland and Baltimore. They've been going at it. Cleveland has won the first 2. They went into this series. Cleveland had a 1-game lead over Baltimore for the number 1 seed in the American League. Now that lead is up to 3 because Cleveland has been offensively brilliant in this series. They won the first game 10-3. They won the second game 8-4. And what's incredible, what's really impressive about Cleveland is that they don't have to rely on the home run ball. Like, literally, last night, they went 8-4, 8 runs, only 1 extra base hit. It was a double. They didn't have a single home run and just 1 double, but they get 10 hits, some walks in there as well, and they laid it on Baltimore. They laid it on Dean Kremer. Josh Naylor had a great game, going 3 for 4 with the double. Lane Thomas has fit in very nicely. He's batting second right now for Cleveland. The fact that they got him for basically free is mind-blowing. Like, how did the rest of baseball not get this guy? Cleveland didn't even have to give up a top 10 prospect to get Lane Thomas, and now he's batting second for them. And it's like, the Mariners did the same thing with Randy Arozarena, to be fair. But yeah, this is the big series to watch this weekend. Cleveland, Baltimore. If Baltimore can come back and win games 3 and 4 of the set, they would be in very good position for a potential number 1 seed. But right now, Cleveland has been getting the job done. So we'll see if they're able to continue or if Baltimore turns this thing around. Baltimore surely has the talent. They've just called up Jackson Holliday, and he hit a grand slam earlier in the week, his first Major League home run. We'll see what he is able to do if he can continue to grow. Of course, he struggled a lot breaking into the league. He's been a lot better recently, so we'll see. Yeah, we'll see what Jackson Holliday can do as he is in his second opportunity as a big leaguer. But Cleveland has been really good. They have surprised me a lot this season. I didn't even have them as a playoff team. I'll admit I was wrong about Cleveland. They are really, really good. A lot of it comes from Steven Kwan, Jose Ramirez, and now Lane Thomas and Josh Naylor. That's a really good 1 through 4. Kwan, Thomas, Ramirez, Naylor. And then David Fry as your 5. I mean, that is a legitimate top 5. That's as good as any top 5 in baseball. So Cleveland, they have a real shot at this thing. Pitching staff, not as good, but they always seem to find guys who are good. Other than that, Aaron Judge just became the first player of the season to reach 40 home runs. He's not on pace for 60 this year, but he is the first guy to make it to 40. And he is probably going to be that AL MVP. Juan Soto and Bobby Witt Jr. still in contention as well, I would say. And it may come down to the wire. If Soto can heat up, it may come down to the wire between Soto and Judge. But right now, Judge is leading that MVP race. He's going to likely win his second AL MVP award. Of course, he won it back in 2022. And if he does it, he will absolutely deserve it. He's been insane this year. That's going to wrap this show up for you guys. This has been Coast to Coast Sports. We'll see you later today with lots more Olympic coverage coming in with you. We got a lot more medal events. Track and field has been getting underway. Golf Day 3. We're almost almost to the end of the golf events. And yeah, that's where we're at right now. Thank you all so much for watching Coast to Coast Sports. My name is Levi. I'll see you later today.